so we are sitting here with Lilith Dorsey, author and Voodoo Priestess, and I had an opportunity to interview her because I know that she has a new book that is about to hit us with some wonderful enlightenment, so I was hoping she would talk to us about that.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. You know, it's having a new book is kind of like having another baby. You know what I mean? It takes a long time to get out, and then, you know, it comes out and it goes out into the world and it's birthed, and then it has a life of its own. But this is really exciting. It's something that I've wanted to focus on for a long time since I wrote my first book, Voodoo and Afro-Caribbean Paganism. And I just, you know, my tradition is an ATR. I'm, you know, devoted to that on so many different levels. And this new book is called Orishas, Goddesses, and Voodoo Queens. So
Yes! Come on, sis!
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, for me, it was about, like, feminine empowerment through some of these really iconic, archetypal, you know, forces that come from Africa originally, you know. So I think that going through this was just such a beautiful process of uncovering all the different levels, so I'd be able to share that with somebody else. So it's coming out May 1st, so yay.
May 1st on Beltane. All right.
Oh, I did not even think of that.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I didn't even think of that until you mentioned it. You know what I mean? It was just a date in my head that I was looking towards in the future. But hey, Beltane is great. I'm all about the big pole. So, you know.
And so, you know, this feminine empowerment that's coming right out of Africa is super relevant right now because our community absolutely needs beautiful women of color who are strong and powerful. So tell me about how that is portrayed in your work.
Well, I think that, you know, separating reality from these media conceptions of all of these things is really hard. And that comes out of, to a large part, the fact that, you know, many of these traditions were secret. They were forced to be kept underground. And really, it was a safety measure, primarily, you know. I'm not trying to be reductionist, but that's what it was, you know. And it was also an oral tradition. So a lot of this stuff is passed on from, you know, person to person to, you know, godparent to godchild. And that relationship is so strong. And all of my godparents have really inspired me. You know, I have beginning initiations in some of the traditions and more formalized, you know, going on. A New Orleans style Voodoo Priestess. And I belong to the Voodoo Spiritual Temple with Priestess Miriam in New Orleans. And I have for, I always have to count because my daughter is 29, although she said she's going to stop counting, but so yeah, I joined like right after she was born, you know, so that's been a long time. But just seeing how the challenges that all my godmothers and all the traditions, you know, Haitian Vodou and Lukumi have sort of championed and moved forward and just sort of trying, and they've all had hardship, they've all had great joy, you know, and just seeing how that's mimicked in the religion, how that's really, you know, told through the sacred stories in the religion. And that's something that's really important to me. I think people learn through stories, and that's how they make meaning out of things. And there are a lot of stories in the book, and people can better get to really know some of these forces without, you know, ideally everyone should get initiated. I'm very, very strong about that. But, you know, there's definitely stuff you might want to find out about before you go and initiate in a tradition, because it is serious, you know. So I think that that's really what makes my book different. Also in the sense that, you know, I'm an anthropologist. I did work both undergrad and grad in anthropology, so I think I have that informed look at it. But then I'm also a practitioner, you know. I'm not all about academics dictating ritual, but I think there's also a way of knowing that we can see reinforcement through the knowledge of knowing that, okay, well, here this is how this manifests, and here this is how this manifests, and this is how we do it in my own house.
Yeah, and so that perspective actually lends to this wonderful sense of authority about the stuff that we're looking at and interpreting, right? Like taking a look at it from an anthropological perspective and a practitioner model perspective, and joining those two applications is remarkably powerful.
I hope so. some days I wonder. I mean, I'm sure that, you know, the people who find me are really meant to find me, you know what I mean? And I hope my work speaks to them, you know. And it's funny, some of the times it will, like, I look at my godkids, and, you know, a lot of them, you know, I was laughing because, you know, we got somebody from Yale who was in the house, and I had to tell her, I was like, oh, we're going to get somebody from Harvard, don't y'all fight. But I think that, you know, a lot of times I do find people who are drawn to my work that are both have an academic background and also a practical background, you know, because I think, like I said, you know, reinforcing, you have to have that reinforcement in your magic. If it works one time, you know, it's not science, but it also needs to be reproducible. You know, I can't share that with somebody if I don't know for sure that what I'm sharing is reproducible.
Right. So that's the whole, like, generating a hypothesis and testing it.
Yeah, you have to do that with your magic too, and I think that's one of the problems that we see today, because a lot of people think, oh, I did this thing, and now that means I can turn around and I'm a professional witch or practitioner, and I'm going to sell it all over the place, and I'm going to dictate from one singular practice what the whole religion is, and none of these religions are like that. No, there's as many ways of doing it as there are people of doing it, but that's, again, why we join a house and we learn what the right way is. You know what I mean? Even in other traditions. I mean, I don't know how it is in your tradition, but from the amount of knowledge I have about it, you know, it looks like, okay, well, these are people that have learned this and done this over and over and over again, and now they can share with you, okay, well, this is how we've seen it manifest for us, and also other people who've gone through what we've gone through.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, faith absolutely has a way of generating very serious evidence.
No, it's true. It's true, and I think outsiders don't realize that either sometimes. You know what I mean? They think it's all woo-woo. And again, this is one, I don't want to sound like the crabby old lady, but you know, people that are new to magic think it's all about, you know, I used to do workshops in ritual and performance, think it's all about the performance, but there needs to be a strong foundation of ritual behind it and a body of knowledge, you know. Okay, well, what if we don't have, you know, we were talking about incense yesterday, you and I, and what if we don't have frankincense? Can I use myrrh? Can I use copal? Can I use something else, you know? But if I'm going to put, you know, honestly, I do have a bunch of spells and things that people can do in that book. And, you know, it's obviously something that's been time-honored and tried. It's not something that I'm going to give you that, like, oh, I made up, some authors tell me, oh, I made up 50 spells yesterday. And I'm like, how can you do that? Like, how can you do that and then float that out there to the general public?
50 spells to try over the next year?
No, 50 spells that they were going to put in their book, you know.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, and I was just like, and then they put this out on social media. I was like, wow, even if I had done that, which I never would, I certainly wouldn't put it out there for people to be like, hey, I am so great, I am so great, I have 50 spells, I have 50 spells, yeah.
Word. So what was the biggest inspiration behind moving forward with your book?
Really my godmother, you know, in Lukumi, and she passed away last year, right around this time, right before Samhain, you know, and just...
Can we say her name?
Oh, Shuna Lokari Alaye.
Hey.
And, yeah, she was in a house based in Florida, and, you know, we were really close, and there was so much knowledge that she shared with me, and really lessons that I learned, and I think that, you know, especially at this time, like I said, I wanted to write this forever, but, you know, with her passing, it just sort of made me have a different understanding about things, you know, and then, as you know, I used to work for jazz musician Dr. John, and he passed back in June, so, you know, in a lot of ways, they were like mother and father to me, you know, and I really miss Max so much, and, you know, he truly was an inspiration and such a shining force in my life. So he said to me one time, he was like, Lilith, you know, you go out there and you dance and you do all this, you know, sacred ritual choreography for me, for, you know, we did Bonnaroo and all things like that. And, you know, but this is what's really important, writing down these words for the next generations. You know? I mean, he said it a little funkier than that. But I think he said, this is where it's at. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's who you are.
Ooh. So can you tell us the title?
Orisha's Goddesses and Voodoo Queens.
You said that. I remember. Okay,
that's
my
fine.
bad. That was my yes moment. I was like, okay, I remember that now. Because like when I heard it again, I was like, yes, okay.
I mean, we went back and forth on it a little bit. I wanted to include more goddesses, but I think that it really is a beautiful book in the form that it is now, and I'm happy about it. I got to put in Marie Laveau and you know, some of the modern queens in New Orleans, Voodoo, and yeah, like I said, people I've been working with for almost 30 years now.
Yes, yes. So where can we find it?
Okay, you can go online, you can pre-order it if this is before May 1st, if it's after, you can go, it's going to be in all major outlets, you know, to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you know, you can order it from the publisher, you know, and we're planning a lot of really good things. People can go to my website, LilithDorsey.com. We're planning a lot of contests and, you know, special giveaways and things like that for people who order it, so, you know, stay tuned. We've got lots of little, you know, fun stuff in the works, lots of little magics and big magics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright, so where do we go to pre-order? How do we go about it?
You can pre-order it from Amazon. You know, like I said, we're going to have special contests and stuff like that. I really want people to pre-order, you know, because that really helps me out and stuff like that. We're also going to have special, you know, reviewer sections and things like that that can also help me out. And people can find out about that on my website.
Okay, alright.
So I think that I just really need support, you know.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's so hard sometimes, you know what I mean, to get the word out there. So I really appreciate it, and you know, I mean, just from all elements of the community. I always want to tell people, like, if I've done anything for you, please help me out. So
yeah. All right.
You know,
the importance of giving back, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I think, you know, again, it's not that sometimes people forget or whatever, but when they think of me fondly, and they do, I hope, you know.
Yes, and make it a little co-creational. Right?
Yeah, that's
that means
really
if you ever got a good reading, right? If you ever got some good advice,
you hung out with me, and
right? This means, right? Throw that support out there, because you just heard how you're gonna benefit from this book when it finally reaches it. All right, so throw that support out there, give back a little bit, show some appreciation for how our magic gets deepened when experts share freely. Right, we can encourage this.
And it really is for everybody, too, you know. I mean, I'm talking about feminine empowerment, but there's so much of witchcraft and magic and ATRs that does focus on the feminine. So I think that, you know, a lot of people can access deeper things about themselves through the book, you know.
And a lot of healing, a lot of empowerment, right? Reaching some more goals, shattering more ceilings.
Yeah. And then all the stuff people like, too. Spells and recipes and, you know, how to cleanse your house, you know, by using these different energies. And, so.
Cool,
It's really good.
Anything else that you want to share?
Just check the website. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of different events and places and bookstores and signings, and we're planning an amazing launch in Brooklyn, so, you know, stay tuned, watch this space, and stuff will be happening, and I just want to thank everybody, you know what I mean, it's just such an honor, you know what I mean, to know that people read my books and come to my workshops and watch my, you know, videos and all of those things, you know, because it's a labor of love, let me tell you.
Certainly. And you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel.
Check that out.
Yes, I went to film school, so yeah, it's obligatory to have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
They tell you when they release you from NYU, you have to make films. So yeah, I make films, and they're out there.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing
these details.
you.
You're wonderful. This was a great interview. Yay.